Thank you very much for being here today to go over some of the issues that we have in the community that's been coming up a lot. My name is Jim Righeimer. I am proud to be your mayor here in the city of Costa Mesa. And before I get going into the actual issues in there, there's a few people we got to thank right off the bat. Anybody who lets you come on their front lawn and wreck it should be thanked. Carrie Renfro, where's Carrie? Where's she hiding? Carrie, thank over there. And then, oh, back there's Carrie. And then, let me tell you how things work in government sometimes. If everybody ever told you the squeaky wheel gets the grease, that's true, okay? And in one day I got 3 phone calls over an issue that the city's been working on for a long time, which was how to make sure that the group homes that we have in the community abide by the rules. There's some bad players out there, things don't do things right. We want to have respect for people who live in the community, but how do we work on those issues? But in one day I got 3 phone calls. By the time I got my 3rd phone call from Julie Patterson, is Julie here? Marilyn called me in the morning. By the time I got my 3rd call, I said, I'm on my way over. That was just last week. The issues that we have, and I want to have people talk about some of the concerns that they have so we kind of get that out, but the issues that we have in the city have a lot to do with the fact that Newport Beach had a lot of group homes that came to California, to Newport Beach. I mean, if for a lot of people in the industry, if you're going to go through a program, would you rather be in Ohio or California? And so we have a lot of people that come here. Newport Beach pushed back pretty hard on it in there, and a lot of it's coming up to our city. So it's not like this is the same it's been a year ago or 2 years ago. The numbers have increased dramatically. So that's why there's some issues, and we got to start setting some ground rules so that we make sure people can live together in the city. Let me quickly, I see Mayor Pro Tem Steve Mensinger. Where's Steve? Back there. Steve, thanks for being here, Steve. I see Planning Commissioner Fitzpatrick right over here, another East Side resident in there. And we got a lot of city staff. So I'm just going to go through real quick. One of the, oh, Planning Commissioner Sessler. There we go. We've got a lot of staff here, and they've been working extremely hard on looking at some of our regulations, ordinances, and things we have to do, and they're putting a lot of time into it. And we're looking to have this stuff come out in September, October, waiting for some rulings out of Newport Beach's case of what you can and cannot do. Obviously, we're going to move it up a little bit faster than we thought we're going to do, and probably make it a little bit more. Some of the issues that they're having we'll probably back off from, but there's a lot of tools that we do have out there to help with making sure we're all good neighbors here. Our code enforcement for this issue over here for group homes is Mike Tucker. Where's Mike? Mike's right here. Recognize that guy? You'll be talking to him a lot. We have 2 of our finest here. We have Sergeant Matt Grimman. Where's Matt? Hiding back there. You're the area sergeant for this area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we have Sergeant Vic Bacula, Community Resources. And Vic is all over it. Both these gentlemen do a lot of stuff for the issues in Lions Park and really helping the community as far as standards of living and life to be around the city in here. Our head of communications, Bill Lobdell, East Side resident also. Where's Bill? Over here. Our assistant CEO is Rick Francis. Rick Francis is leading this up from the administration standpoint in the city. Where's Randy Buck? Randy. See the tall guy right there? Randy's Chief Code, yeah. Chief of Inspections. And then where's Willa? Where's Willa? Code Enforcement is under Willa. She's Chief of Code Enforcement over there. So when all the complaints and everything happen, she hears about it. And then we call her up and we complain even more. So that's it. And then Marilyn Ashwell. Where's Marilyn? One of the neighbors that got us going here. Where's Marilyn? Oh, there she is, right here. Okay. I think I got this all the way. But again, I want to thank everybody for being here and to look at it. So what are we doing in the city to try to get things done? We're looking at what kind of tools that we have can solve the problems. I think we've all heard some of the problems. And if you talk to, that go by? And if you talk to a lot of people out there, you know, people have all different kinds of families and different ways they live, and so we have to respect that. And so the issues of it is, how do you handle things? Code enforcement is really good at handling things like, you know, your grass is 3 feet tall and you haven't cut it, or you've got a car parked in your lawn. We need things that are more like nuisance type ordinances, which is behaviors, how people are acting, what they're doing. Groups, congregating, 50 people smoking or 20 people smoking in the front yard, a lot of loud language, those kind of things. So that's where nuisance ordinances come in, and that's what the staff is looking for. But before I get into all that, what I'd like to do is hear from some of the people in the community, and when you talk about the problems that you're having, I want you to be respectful of the fact that I think that everybody I've talked to has all said, we understand there's a need for the group homes. I don't think I've had anybody complain about that. It's more of the behaviors and how they're handled over there. So if we could be respectful about that, I think that would help us move forward to get some of the issues done. So if there's any people that like to talk about their concerns that they have in the community right in this neighborhood, why don't you come up here and I'll give you the microphone.
To the whole issue. My tenants advise me of problems, and I have property at 2036 Fullerton. And there is also a men's home, which is south of my duplex. And the problem that we're having there is that you have flocks of men coming down the street at a time, and usually don't see groups so large. And the other problem they're talking about is the smoking, the congregating in front of the units that they're occupying down there, where they'll just sit out front. But the problems my tenants specifically are facing are the numerous vans, because most of these people do not drive. They don't have driver's licenses. They're on bicycles or they're walking. And so the problem that we have is an excess amount of vans which come to pick them up for appointments. And there has to be some way to either have them, they used to have the church, which would provide off-site parking, but apparently that does not appear to be happening because they are really cluttering Fullerton. And that's really, I think, all of our issues.
Right. Thank you. Who else we got there?
I'm her neighbor, and I just bought the house at 2032 with Fullerton, which I wasn't disclosed that there was a house like that next to mine. Some of the tenants did talk about lots of loud noise where they had to go and call somebody to have them shut down, and they just sit around smoking and playing basketball in the front, also walking around the area, and it's not something that the tenants want. But I can't believe that you got homes that are $1 million or more around here, and you have this here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Please come up.
Now, I have not been exposed directly yet. My neighbor just sold it for $1.4 million, and they bought it cash. The house is going to be owned by a Pamela Gagnon, and she runs Rose Rehab. She already has one, Master Circle, Huntington Beach. She has them all over the place. She has about 5 of them.
What's the address on that one?
2421 Tustin. It overlooks the back bay and the church. The first night they moved in, they woke up the one neighbor. I was not home. They woke up the one neighbor at about 2 or 3 in the morning, bouncing on the diving board, yelling and screaming and smoking up a storm. She gets it worse than I do. I view everything in that house. They have no curtains yet. They have nothing. My house is very high. My house is very high.
Perfect.
And I see into this place, so there will be no privacy for me or for them. It's the calm before the storm yet, but I have done my research on them, and apparently these homes are very loud, these particular ones. This is going to be an all-female. I don't know what type of rehab. I was not told anything except by the owner, who was telling me, oh, you're not going to be happy about this. A house is coming in that is a transition house. And I kind of went, what? And she explained that it was a transition house and that they had wanted to put 4 beds in the bedroom, master suite. I have now come to find out that you are only allowed 6 people in the house without a permit. I don't know at this time. Do you have to have a permit even to run one of these?
I'll answer the question, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been sitting with our lawyers going over all the different issues, so I'll give you a couple of distinctions. One's if you're a state, I'll call it a state licensed facility where you give care and you might treat with drugs or whatever you do to help people out in there. And the other ones is that you have 6 or fewer in a house and you're allowed to have 1 staff person over in there. So we have a myriad of federal laws with housing, with ADA, with all sorts of issues and state laws that says what you can or cannot do. So that's probably a good segue to some of the things that the city is looking at to do probably a little sooner than we thought we had. One of the things is if you have a state licensed property in there, again, we can't tell them they can't be there, but they do have rules about it. We just found out recently that they're supposed to be 300 feet apart. So if it's state licensed, they're supposed to be 300 feet apart. Tucker, we're looking on that, starting to go through that already today to see which ones of the state licensed ones may be within that number in there. But as far as from the city itself, no. Go ahead.
My neighbors, I back up to them. I'm
Okay.
behind Tustin. I'm on Bonnie Circle. My neighbors are 2421 Bonnie Place. They've already had 2 people knocking on the door, one loitering and just waiting, and then just kept knocking because they were not home.
Right.
And they were in a van. And so they've already had multiple disturbances, and I have heard them and smelled their smoke.
Okay. And he's handing out, this is on the website that says the frequently asked questions about group homes and things that we can do on in there. So what's that?
The city's website?
On the city's website, I'm sorry, city's website. Okay, so there's a couple things that we're looking at right now, and understand that there's no legal perfect way yet. We're actually on the edge of moving these things through. Newport's ahead of us and what they've been doing. Also understand Newport spent $3.5 million in legal fees. This is big money, and there's issues and fights on these issues over there. When you've had people paying $1,000 a day or a few $1,000s a week per person, 2 in a bedroom, do the math. It's a lot of money that's coming up against this. So we have to make sure we do things properly. So we already came to the city to do what's called a nuisance ordinance. We really don't have one in the city. We have code enforcement. We have all sorts of issues in there. But it got a bit complicated, so we're coming back on September 6th, City Council. You don't all have to be there, but it'd be nice to have some people there, because one of the things that we have in the city is we're very eclectic in the city. And people like to be Costa Mesa. I mean, the standard line is, we don't want to be Irvine, right? We want to be Costa Mesa. And that's fine. But what happens sometimes is we say, yeah, but we really don't want you to park a car on your front lawn, okay? And so you do have to have some rules. The idea is how to balance that. The city staff is adamant about they need some tools, and the tools is a nuisance ordinance. So if you have 25 people in the backyard smoking and the smoke's coming over, is that a standard for code enforcement? No, but is it a standard for nuisance? And those things we can do things about in the property in there. So, you know, emails or whatever saying you're supporting the nuisance will be very, very important. It's going to be stripped down. It's going to be very simple. There's going to be about a half a dozen items, but it'll allow us to say this is a nuisance and fine for it. The other thing that we're looking at is what Newport is doing is what is a housekeeping family. So when you talk about going over the number 6, and how can we fine based on that? One of the things that we don't have in our city is what and I'm going to say it wrong, staff, housekeeping group? In single family unit, but it's for it's how they're connected. So the distinction of 4 or 5 people living together is we all have a lease on we have a lease on the house, we all eat together, we all do business together, or family together, we pay the bills together, we have mail come to the house. You're not a housekeeping unit when you have a separate contract with the property owner and you come and go based on no other relationship except that the reason that you're at the house, for whatever the reason is. So when you do that and you start going over that, there starts to be the distinction of you're running a business or not. Now, again, we're on very strange legal territory in that. But there are arguments to be made that at a certain point, you are no longer just somebody in there. So take this distinction of a motel, okay? That's a business where people come in, stay for a few days. Our police officers can go up to a motel and see who's in every single room. They can find out. They're supposed to keep those records up there. And on your single family house, we don't have that. Somewhere in between there is, we need as a city to know if people are here for a week or 7 days or 10 days, who are you? Who are the people here? So we're looking at, our staff's looking at a registration method for all homes that operate as a business to do this. And again, legally it's going to be some tough issues here. So when people scream about, you know, how's it going in court, we need backing, folks. There's no perfect road here. But we need to say, who's living there? you know, and how long are you there? And so people can look at it and say, there's 9 people there, not 6. Okay, and you only know that when you have names. You can't. I can't. I look over here. I just met a bunch of people over here. If I don't know your name, I can't count to 9 or 6 or who lives where. So we have to have those tools that's in there. So the big issue is going to be able to have the nuisance ordinance so that we have some tools to work in there. The next thing is a registration process for if you're not licensed with the state. If you're licensed with the state, again, we can't touch you. We can talk about the fact that if you're less than 300 feet apart. And there's some other issues over there. But one of the biggest problems that we have is people do not follow the 6 and under rule. Okay? Again, it's 6 persons and a staff. And I've heard all the excuses, but until we have a fining system that is commensurate with the amount of money that's made, nothing changes. So we're going to look at our legal staff, how we can do it, but it's probably like $1,000 a day per violation. So if you have 2 or 3 people there extra, that's $3,000, $1,000 for each, $3,000 a day. And you have to start hitting this so from a financial standpoint it works. The other issue happens in these houses is that a lot of them are bought by an investor but then run by an operator. Okay, we have to treat everybody the same. Okay, we can't be different of how we treat somebody in their family and how they operate, but we can treat them different how they act out there and if they do nuisance problems. Investors aren't going to be real excited about buying houses if the city starts to come up and watch these houses closely and say you're causing a problem. Investors just want to make money. They don't want to hassle. They don't want their name somewhere, you know, brought up. So that's the kind of pressure that we can look at. Some of the nuisance issues, large groups. The other day when I was over here with Maryland, 25 people moving across the street in a pack. That's just not a neighborhood. That's not what we signed up for. That's not what this community is, and that's a distinction difference. That's not in any way looking at this and treating them differently. It's just that neighborhoods don't have 25 people going from house to house, from meeting to meeting. The neighborhoods don't have vans picking up groups of people. Now you're putting businesses together by doing it. So we're on a little bit of uncharted territory here, but I could tell you that I know 2 council people, and probably all 5, once you show up, are going to support being much more aggressive, properly, legally, no discrimination, make sure we do all the rules right to make sure that we enforce these ordinances they come on in there. Let me see here. So again, the registration process is probably going to be the biggest one that goes over the top. That's going to help us. The other thing is that we've talked to staff and looking if we have to change an ordinance. For homeowners, we're real big on giving you 30 days to fix a problem. I mean, our city's never been about giving somebody a fine for, whatever, something wrong, your fence is knocked down out in the street. We give you time to get it fixed. And if you need more time, we give you more time. We just want to get it done. There has to be a different distinction, not only in group homes, but in motels. Motels is another big problem in the city. Big problem in the city. You can ask the 2 officers back there. 2 years ago, a dozen motels, we had 1,200 calls for service. 1,200. Last year, we had 2,200 calls for service. One motel had 600 calls, or 500 and some calls. I mean, that's 2 a day. The resource is outrageous. We have an ordinance coming forward that we're going to start using what's called excess service use. It's basically you get a certain number of calls based on the size of what you do for your motel, let's say. And it's not going to affect the homeowner. You can probably call a bunch of times at your home for an issue. But if you're in a business and you can't manage your place and do security at your place and take care of your place, we are not your property management company at the city. We are not here to come over and tell you you have a problem with your motel. And I mean, if you are renting out rooms, it's not for us to walk in there and say if a smoke detector is not working. The new policy in the city is here's your fine. If you're in that business, I'm not saying it for everybody who has a business. I'm saying if you're in the business of renting a room out or renting a motel room out, we're not going to play around with this anymore. So you're going to see a lot of things and a lot of reactions with the motels because that's also coming up. I think on the September 6th, will we have that ordinance ready for that first reading? We hope so. Again, a lot of legal issues. We had a several-hour meeting just today to kind of go through these things in here. So there are things that can be done. We have to be respectful of people in the group homes. Please do that, okay? But again, behaviors are the issues that we have to look at and how people handle those behaviors, and those we can work on and do it in there. So go over here and then there.
State-run versus what? You said there's a difference in the state-run approved
Well, okay, and I probably said it wrong, but there are state, they're not state run, they're state, I want to say the word license, and that could be the wrong word, but the idea, is it licensed?
State license.
And so so the concept there is that they do treatment. When you have a 6 or under regular house that we have no control over, you can't do treatment in that house. It may be a halfway house that somebody, or whatever their issue is, it's just a place for them to stay and live. And
They're not a rehab.
well, again, I'm not going to get into the legal words of what's rehab or not.
Right, but it's a transition.
Some sort of transition, correct. And so it's not at the higher level where they're giving services. When they start giving services, they have to be licensed. And so, but the point of it is, what we want to have is either you're licensed with the state or you're registered with the city. And we know who you are and we know who's there. And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, it's going to be new territory. Because somebody says, well, I'm a family 6 in our house. No, you're really not. Okay? You don't have a housekeeping unit as we define housekeeping unit. And our new ordinance will have how we define. Right now, our housekeeping unit is 2 sentences and it's very broad. So once that gets changed in there, it's a difference. One of the things is you have separate agreements. You know, if you rent a house, you have one agreement, right? If you're a family or even, I had college roommates. We still had one agreement with the landlord, right? We were a unit. If everybody had separate agreements, it would have been different in there.
Is there a point when we achieve critical mass with these homes in this city? Is there a point where you'll say, okay, we have too many?
Okay, so one of the issues is called concentration. And again, I have to watch my words because there's a lot of people here, okay? Concentration, if you have a certain concentration, is there a certain number that all of a sudden there's a problem? There's legal arguments in the state law about concentration. There's legal issues with the feds, and they both argue with each other. And sometimes you don't want to bring up concentration because that's like saying you're discriminating, okay, at a certain level. So if you have a neighborhood of 100 houses, is 10 group homes a high concentration? Well, if you live there, it is, but to somebody, but to a judge, it might not be. So, yeah, 9 too many. There you go. So the point of it is where's that thing? And so I'd rather not say publicly what that number is, but we're looking at concentration to what you're allowed to have, but we don't know exactly what that number is. But that's something that's been talked a lot about. Concern she was talking about is, and I'd probably have people ask the questions that come up. Conditional use permits, can we do it? Can you charge a lot more? Conditional use permits are, you pay a fee for what it costs the staff to handle it. It's not like you can just charge whatever you want to have some certain business not come in. You can go ahead and not condition it and not allow it. When we get into that, we get into the fair housing rules, the ADA issues, and those are the things that tie us up. We have tools for conditional use permits, but they don't fit for this. When having ordinances in place that work towards issues like behaviors, that makes a difference. And so, you know, we're going to have to figure out, and we have some smarter lawyers than out there say, you know, when there are people constantly coming and going in a single family neighborhood that has a traffic. I mean, we talk traffic when we build that project right there, right? How many trip counts come out of those 7 houses over there? We could calculate that. Do those trips change dramatically? Well, they're maybe not cars because they don't drive cars. Maybe they are the vans. Maybe the people walking. We got to find those distinctions. But the basic is it a housekeeping unit? And it's not. And I think what you're going to find with the bad actors, they're doing more than 6 people. Okay? And you start finding those things and going after them because you had people registered by name. Like every month you give us the list of who stayed here, their name, what week they were here. You count it up, was it 6? Plus a staff person. Or they overlap. Or no one person left and had different. Fine. Follow the rules that we have there. Go ahead.
You know, the point of these homes is supposed to allow people to come back into the community and kind of, you know, get used to being in a community. But at what point does the concentration cross a threshold where their presence is changing the community? It's impeaching their whole purpose.
So the comment is, at what point do you put so many in there that you change it? And that is actually a legal theory. It's called, they're coming from an institution and now you've just created another institution out here because you have, 30 people on the block who are all going through a program of any different kind. And wait a second, I'm back at an institution. So that is actually a legal issue and to look at that can go into the ordinances of saying the concentration issue. But again, the concentration issue, our lawyers aren't sure we want to use that one yet. Marilyn.
Dovetail on what he just
Real loud.
Dovetail on what he just said. Over 20 years ago, 14 to 20 years ago, when we bought into this,
we were told 6 females were going to be assimilated into a neighborhood. A neighborhood means you talk to one another, you can run next door and say, hi, how are you doing? I'm telling you, once that door closed, it was closed. And it's a very cold feeling walking by there. And these groups of men is breaking across the street. At 10 o'clock at night, men are walking into the 6 women that are recuperating. Don't even unlock the door, they just walk through. And I'm saying, what is going on there? I've had people passed out on my porch 3 times, but that's over a number of years. 3 times just plopped. I would like to be a good neighbor, and I want a neighbor feeling. Well, all this legal
Right.
stuff is taking time to happen. We need to now have a liaison person in the neighborhood that talks to the management of the place.
Right. And one of the things that's going to probably come out of this in here is make sure you leave your names, and that we're probably going to put together a task force of community members, because we have people from not just your community. I saw Stephen Chan here and people from Mesa Verde, and I mean, I could do this meeting 10 places in the city in the next 2 weeks, and I probably end up doing that many because of those issues that we have. But we can solve some of the problems, and we can put the pressure on it. We don't have to be a welcome mat, for everybody here. The other issue is when you talk about assimilation, we have people, they're not from even California. So if you look at the number we have, how many houses do we have right now in the distinction of the two? We have 104 houses that we know of in Costa Mesa. 104. When I got on the Planning Commission, one of the first things that we looked at was if you were going to have you were going to add a 5th bedroom. That means you don't have it already. You add a 5th bedroom, you have to come into the Planning Commission to basically put a 3rd car garage on, because there was an impact there. You got to be able to handle it and whatever you're doing and park cars, because you're doing a 5th bedroom. And we didn't count dens, so it wasn't a den. People showed up at city council, other council people were against it, because there's people that don't have a 3-car garage, they have a 5-bedroom house. We didn't say that. We said you can't add a 5th, because we had regular neighborhoods of 1,200 square foot houses that 2 more bedrooms were just being added. Just be done. Well, that neighborhood is not handing out trick-or-treat candy anymore. There's nobody going to the schools anymore. There's no, Hanukkah or Christmas or whatever you celebrate. I mean, it's just changed the neighborhood. Now you take a tract of homes of that, and you add a dozen of it in there. I think North Mesa, that one neighborhood is about how many up in there? Like 8 or 10 in that one neighborhood. I mean, single family, 1-story, just like these here, in a enclosed tract, it's right there in their circle.
A lot of these group homes, that the people that are funding them are from outside investors and stuff.
I know they are.
And then the other one is that the number of police calls that are directed towards either the hotels or maybe even the homes around here.
I don't know the homes, and I'll end up getting that. The motels are massive.
Well, I know that Newport has an ordinance down there that if you have so many police calls for disturbances and parties in your neighborhood or whatever the disturbance is, that the fine goes up. It goes up a lot every time. And you had mentioned something about a proposed ordinance, and I would really be behind that to establish that and enforce it, because if you start hitting the money behind it,
right?
You've got
if you hit the money, and this is where the council needs support from the community, because again, there's a lot of great people in the community that just don't want any rules, and they show up to council meetings. They just do. They're good people, they're honest people, they're nice people. They don't want rules, they don't want new ordinances, they don't want to be told what to do. We're not Newport, which I say, well, we don't want to be Wilmington either. Okay? So how do we handle that? We need to have other people in the community say, no, we think this is an okay, normal process. It's not unusual. It's just a standard that we should have. Over here, real loud, please.
Hi, I'm curious, you mentioned the rehab groups, the number, is that including or exclusive of the prison reform that we are seeing now everywhere, along with drug and rehab?
Go ahead.
We aren't counting, there's no homes that are just for probation or parolees. Some of them are ending up in our sober living homes, but they're included in the total.
Yeah, so I asked one of the officers earlier, I think what it really is there may be coming out or they're on probation and they're going into a home because they're in jail for a drug problem. And so that's where they go out of. But it's not necessarily like it's usually the drug people that end up in these homes anyway, or some other issue they have. It's not you come out of prison and go into a home. That's not normal. They're very expensive. It's not a place just to come into.
Who's paying for it? We are.
Listen, no, not the prison part. Who's paying for is the question. I think we all in our lives have touched family members that have had these problems. It is a horrible problem. Drug and alcohol, or those issues, are horrible problems, and families get bankrupted paying for this stuff. It's extremely expensive. All the way back there.
My question is, I know that
Real
there are
loud.
rules about how close to schools and children and so forth certain facilities should be.
Right,
Like registered sex offenders.
right.
There's no rule that about guidance for sober living homes or rehab.
Okay, so let's say a house is run perfectly well. You barely even know it's there, and it's fine. They are not bothering kids over here. When we talk in those ways, we're talking in discriminatory ways. That person who is going through drug or alcohol treatment is a bad person. They're probably not. They're probably, 10 of the nicest guys walking the street. They're just all hanging together, and it's like,
Following the rules, they are nice,
right.
but there aren't.
But there's no rules right now saying 25 people can't smoke in a backyard. We need to have ordinances that say you can't do it. So it's not just that. What was the line, everybody stops and joke and smoke, they call it? Everybody's in a group. Is that illegal? No. But if you got your kids in the backyard and there's a 4-letter word every time, okay, that's a nuisance. That's a problem. And that's a tool that we need to do that. But there isn't distances, and you really got to watch that, because when you go to that, now you get into discrimination.
And not even on business, the fact that it's a business.
Well, that's where we're going to start crossing. The question was not to the business. That's where we're going to start crossing. Where's the business line come in, at least from a registration standpoint of who lives here and where are they at. Question back here, and real loud.
I know I have this problem, and I've heard other people have this problem as well, is smoking.
Right.
And now I hear you say that's a nuisance. How is that not a health issue? Because I feel in my family it's a health issue,
Right.
and I have all these people smoking, and the smoke is coming directly into my house. So how? I don't.
Yeah,
is there another-
that would be considered a nuisance. That would go into the nuisance.
That's not a health
Are you for or against fire rings, first of all?
I have a question. Is with R2 zoning, they're allowed 6 in each.
I think the answer is yes, correct? It's 2 units. 2 units, a duplex, 6 in each one, right?
6 in each one.
Yeah. One of the things that Newport did is Newport was, part of their ordinance is move to the R2 neighborhoods. Move it there, it's more business-like, and to go in there and get out of the single-family residences. Before you say that sounds great, I'd like you to look at maps of our city and realize a lot of us live in R2, even though we think we're in single-family.
I missed the beginning of the meeting, so you may have addressed this. But I live at the end of a cul-de-sac off of Mesa, and we have a property that it's rumored to have been purchased by a realtor who is involved with setting up group homes and such, which, like you said, my family has had issues with alcohol and
Right.
drugs, and, I don't want to be one to say, I don't want to help people out. But it is at the very end of a cul-de-sac full of children. And I do have concerns because we do have people on our street who have had people passed out on their lawns. We had somebody who was having seizures from who was having
Right.
major issues. Anyway, that street especially, there's questionable activities that happen up and down, but it's right back smack at the end of a cul-de-sac. And like you said, you could have everybody maybe run perfectly fine. It could be people who it's on the up and up, it's got a good situation there. But the smoking, the language, as a mom, I would like to be able to raise my children. We bought there for the purpose of this is an awesome neighborhood. We've got a cul-de-sac, we've got a huge backyard, we're set. But it kind of, it makes me nervous. We've had petty theft from a group home right around the corner, on our street. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Okay.
It is a serious concern.
Yeah.
And we would opt to move out of our neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, okay, we don't want anybody to move out of a neighborhood, okay?
I grew up here. It just
Yeah.
it's kind of scary. And like you said, it may be an awesome situation. It may work out perfectly. But I just want to make sure that we as homeowners and residents have quick recourse if something needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think the ordinance is going to be the road that we'll go down, and then the registration. And I think that the first thing that'll do is that'll get rid of the bad actors pretty fast. So when you start having 7 or 8 people, I mean, you get these fines that you can start talking real money, and these things can go away pretty quick because they don't want to do it. And you've got an investor owns a house, they don't need it. I mean, these are people that own these places too, and these are business people, and if they don't want to run it, I have no problem saying their name publicly. You know, we got some motels over here that the whole world's going to know those owners are, because I'm done with them living in gated communities and putting pimps, prostitutes, and methamphetamine on Harbor Boulevard. I'm done with it. And they're, you know, it's crazy. So, did you already ask me before?
No.
Okay, right up there.
We have 3 sister cities fighting this issue that are way ahead of you. You've spent $3.5 million in Newport.
Newport, right.
Why is it we're so late to the table?
Yeah.
Number 1. Okay, number 2, with 104 houses. You should have stricter ordinances for occupancy issues with West Side Costa Mesa and whatever goes on over there. Why can we not get better, quicker action? And how, I mean, there's 6 you named off that are here, that are on your initial task force.
Mm-hmm.
But how is it, you know, what are you going to throw at this to get this done quickly?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I don't want anybody to think, thank you very much. I don't want anybody to think this is going to get done quickly. We can put what ends up, here's what ends up, the big picture is you put pressure on things and they go away and they go down, they slow down, you stop your increase, okay? Right now, I mean, literally, I have had people that operate homes, find people, come in to meet with myself and Mayor Pro Tem Mensinger saying, we love your city, it's great, you're so easy to work with. I'm like, easy to work with what? Well, you're just so easy, we can open our homes, we can do it. I'm like, well, we can't stop you. Well, you don't cause us any problems. So I guess the question is legally and properly to make them fill out forms and make them, you know, go through the business plan of how they're going to operate, whatever, and look at that so that they sign the dotted line how they're going to operate it. Now, when you talk about number of people, you know, densities and that kind of stuff, those don't get you anywhere. We went through it staff. You know, the building codes are, you know, 1 person per 70 square feet. So 700 square foot house, you can have 10 people. So those won't get you to the numbers that you need over in there. But clearly, we've been working on this thing for a while. We're really just waiting for Newport to. They may very well lose. Newport loses, and they got no ordinance. They got nothing.
LA's been fighting this for years in doing this. I mean, what
Correct.
are you prototyping after?
I will tell you that.
Just waiting on Newport?
No, Newport's won some cases in there. Newport's got one. Orange just. It's not a new issue, but it's what we're going to do, and we're going to make happen, is something that hasn't been done before. I'm telling you, LA has not figured out the problem. Newport hasn't figured it out yet. They've got an ordinance. So what you find out in the end is these things haven't worked. We had it with the marijuana distribution places. You know, we had 4, we had 12. People wanted medical marijuana. It was okay. Then we had 80. Okay? At a certain point, you're like, I'm not here to be your marijuana store for the whole county. And so that's over in there. So what happens is, and then you find there's no way to regulate it. They say there is, but there isn't a way to regulate it. So the group homes, we're going to be on a bit of uncharted territory in here. We're going to look at the ordinances, the nuisance ordinance that we can do. As we do it and talk with some people and put together a committee, we're going to get some more of the finer distinctions of, you know, what is that when, I don't know, you know, how many times people have, you know, passed out in your front lawn or they're not being, I don't know how that is, and that's just a one-off situation. That could be your next door neighbor at a Super Bowl party. The point of it is, where can you make the distinction so that you can put in the nuisance and then stop? And then once you do that, you can find to a certain point that they don't want to be in business here anymore. But it's a good question. I mean,
It just seems like you guys are slow right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're ramping it up because the needs now hit your face.
No, well, I would say there's a little bit of truth to that.
Pockets behind these houses. These
Right.
foundations have huge amounts of
Right.
money. To me, I work
So-
with a lot of organizations that set up a lot
Right.
of these.
So you're going to be real supportive, because she's talking about there's a lot of money out there and all that. So when the litigation starts, I mean, it's the funniest thing being in the city council. You see crazy stuff. So we'll get sued by, let's say, an employee association, and they'll sue us, and we'll have to defend it, and it costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they'll market you up to the microphone and say, "Look how much money you're spending on legal costs." And you go, "What?" I mean, they basically want you to drop. You're suing us. We're trying to protect the citizens' money here, and you're suing us. This litigation's expensive, and we need support out there when it goes 100, 200, 300, 500, a million, 2 million in legal fees, that I understand that it's well worth it. Are you kidding? What's a neighborhood worth? A million, 2 million? I mean, it's worth millions to solve a neighborhood problem. Need to make sure people in the community are supporting us when we spend this money, because it's going to be expensive.
But nuisance fines aren't going to hit the pockets to the house.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they can.
The foundations behind them have large amounts of money.
Yeah, but in the end, if you cut off money or you fine, you get it. You charge $1,000 a day for every single fine every single day. You start getting 30,000 a month fines times 3, 90,000. These numbers can add up pretty quick. Yeah, correct.
Let's say we get those ordinances.
What's that?
Let's say we get those ordinances.
Right.
Do you have the staff to enforce?
We will add whatever staff necessary to make sure it happens. You can count on that. It's too big of an issue and it's too valuable. I mean, how neighborhoods are done and set up and structured, the value it is in there. When we were on the west side, on the west side neighborhood, we had a recycling store, right? You know, bring your cans in. What was it? Hey, Mr. Chen's here. What was it? It was an ecosystem for homeless people to go. Right in your backyard. You get up in the morning, 8 o'clock, go get your cans, walk across the street, Sunshine Liquor. We went and said, this is crazy. A councilman, it was, you were planning commission at the time, Mensinger, said this is crazy. There's a big van out in front or a big dump truck picking up cans. That's not what was approved 20 years ago. It was like a little pick up your recycled cans. And it ended up being an ecosystem of you get your food at the SOS or you over at the soup kitchen, and then you go get your money from the cans, and then you go get the booze, and it's just an ecosystem. So those are things we do. We got a lot of pushback when we said we're getting rid of our recycling center, which was, and folks, when you put trash in your garbage, it's recycled. We do it. It's done by hand. So they weren't recycling anything. They were stealing stuff out of trash cans and making our rates go up because we didn't have the aluminum to offset costs. So, but again, we need support for that kind of stuff. All the way back, real loud.
I'd just like to see all the neighborhoods in Costa Mesa be treated the same. And I'm not sure where the concentration of all the homes are, but I would venture to say that there's not too many of these homes over in Henry Segerstrom's neighborhood. And, you know,
I don't know where Henry lives on Lido Island, and he
well,
there's one down by him.
in this
There was a
area
lot
of
by him.
influence over near
Yeah.
South Coast Plaza.
I will tell you, I live on Mesa Verde Country Club. We have group homes on the golf course. There's so much money as a real estate play. These investors love it. You get $8,000-$10,000 a month rent. You can bring in $30,000-$40,000 for revenue. You know, the operator is a ton of money, and it's almost a real estate play. Buy up real estate and have them pay you for it. But we had a couple $1 million house sell, which is a group home on the golf course. All the way back, gentleman here. Yeah.
With registration, can you demand from a legal standpoint that you peer surveil? Like I'm in wholesale distribution of liquor, and we can find out right away who the owners are. And can you do that from the standpoint of when they sign up for one of these homes, they have to disclose who the legal operators
So there's the
are.
personal liability.
And then when they get fined, they get put in the paper.
Right. So I think what you're talking about is they don't have a corporation or an LLC, and they don't know who it is. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, even though I act like one. So I'm not sure how we do that over in there. But there are things like when we do bonding in the city, we don't let the corporation bond. There's a personal person signing a bond, so we know who they are. So I could find out for that. The woman here, and then back, real loud.
Group homes. Can we separate regular group homes from sober living homes and rehab homes in this city? Because I think that they all get grouped together, and people tend to not want to curtail group homes because they're afraid that real family group homes are going to be hurt by rules.
Well,
of sober living
I think just the opposite. You have to treat them all the same. You cannot discriminate.
They're not the same.
I know. So you look at they're not the same because of what they do and
Because of their
right, the
they don't
impacts.
live there. They don't live there. People in group homes, say 5 people that are special needs people live in a home. They live there.
Right.
Day in, day
I have
out.
special needs on my block. Correct.
Okay, and that's fine. I think I approve of that. I think that's good. We need that. But we don't need sober living homes where people
Okay.
come in for weeks.
Here's why I don't want you to go down, because it's not good, because it would sound like discrimination, and I know you would never discriminate.
Of course not.
Okay, but we have to watch our words, because when we say they're all group homes, and that house that has disabled children in it doesn't have the effects because they're not doing the things that are nuisances. So if we stay with the nuisances, we'll be legal and proper. And when you come to city council meetings, I want you to talk about that and not talk about certain group homes are bad, because I'm telling you that is a legal road you go down, which is basically saying we don't want those kind of people living here. You lose in court when you talk that way. Not just the council, but the citizens talk that way. So I want to make sure that we're really smart about how we talk, that it's the actions and the nuisances, not that they're in a group. Back over here.
Sorry, it was working, so I missed a little bit. I have a family member who lives in Sacramento that had to go into treatment. She was sent to Costa Mesa to get that residential treatment. There's a lot of miles between here and there. Why are we the capital?
Yeah.
And the second question is about code violations. Are you somehow going to provide us a list of things we can call about, like the vans that park across the sidewalks because they don't want to go all the way in, those kinds of things?
Yeah,
I want to know specifically what the hit list is.
It's already on there right now. So right now on our website, and it's under group homes, there's a button.
Most popular on the homepage.
Most popular, because you guys are most popular now. Go to Costa Mesa's website, costamesaca.gov. Just go to that on there. There's a button, and it'll give you the list of issues that we have, and that will be updated and changed as we get distinctions of what those nuisances are.
And then how can we add to that? Those of us that are unfortunate enough to live right next door to
So
one, or
if they're not on there, just click other and put a phone number down, and a staff member will call you. Okay?
And then about the why are we the capital question?
And why are we the capital?
Yeah.
This is great, man. Look at this.
No,
I mean, come on. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Ohio? Iowa? I mean, come on. I want to go to California. They call it a geographical change. Somehow you're going to change. I don't know if that actually works, but families think it works.
What about us compared to Irvine? How many does Irvine have?
They have them. Absolutely have them.
Not this many.
Well, we're nicer than Irvine. I hear you. I'm not trying to be facetious. I hear you. Okay, who hasn't asked the question? Go ahead, real loud.
You made a distinction earlier. There are sober living homes, and then there are state licensed rehabilitation centers
That do treatment, right?
Right. And so the state has basically told you as a city, you can't touch these people.
And the federal government both.
Correct. But when they're not following state and federal laws, how do you as a city protect citizens here? Because under California state law, if they are treating 6 people, no one other than those 6 people can go into that facility without violating their privacy laws. But yet you have a facility down here at the end of the street where it's a revolving door where there's 50, 70 people in every single day, and they're violating those people's privacy laws, and yet nobody can touch them because they're state licensed.
Yeah, that's a good question. We need to look into that. Distinction on the state license. I think there'll be some good fishing in the state licensed issues that aren't actually following them, and the state doesn't have the money or the resources to go look at it and say you're not operating properly. That, can you really have a van and pick up people? Can you bring doctors to do treatments at different properties? How do you do that?
Can you have a commercial dumpster in your backyard when you're only treating 6 women?
Right. And 7 refrigerators. I saw the 7.
Refrigerators.
Yeah.
And can you have 2 AA meetings at least per day?
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be a question, and I don't know what the number is, but there is a number when it could become a nuisance. You're correct. So how many can you have? Now,
Does the house have a capacity?
What's that?
How do you know the capacity of the house?
The capacity is a code enforcement thing. It's literally 70 feet per person, so the capacity never kicks in for like a meeting. For the amount of people that can live and stay there, then there are issues. But the meeting doesn't do it for us usually. All the way in the back. You.
I'm familiar with one site that has illegal conversions.
Say it real loud.
What if a property has illegal conversions, so they converted the garage, and now all of a sudden they can put more people in there?
Illegal garages, you contact us right away, and we'll shut that down immediately. We had a high school kid problems and issues and everything else, but a good high school kid die right around the corner here in a garage. Yeah, right over the street here in a garage. I went over and saw it the next day. It was horrendous to have a garage locked and the kid burns to death inside that place. And I'll tell you too, folks, when we talk about illegal units, there's a lot of good, honest people out there that have them in their backyards, folks. Okay? And we talk about it, and people say, well, don't talk about mine. I'm real good. Well, if you're in an R1 neighborhood and it was never permitted, we'd like you to think about why you're having it, because it changes your neighborhood. It's not, we don't have anything called a granny unit. That's a fake thing. There's no such thing called a granny unit. We just call them granny units. So I want you to think about that. This council's not going to tell you what to do, and we don't get into that and all that, but think about it. It adds more people in the neighborhood. It's kind of the same thing. A new person lives behind that house, and you see them go out to their car, and it's a bit of an issue. So, but garages that are not supposed to be inhabited, get us to it right away. That is a big. We can jump on that immediately, right? And the health and safety, there's no 30 days. There's nothing. That's get right in there. Boom, shut them down. Big one. Anything back here? The man right here.
My name is V. Adam, and I live right across the street, the 197 Bowie Street. It used to be yellow.
Yellow?
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many people from Yellowstone knocked on our door. It's not yellow anymore. A lot of the issues that y'all have come up with were things that I had in mind as well. The only thing that hasn't come up, that I haven't heard anyway, is vandalism. And I can't pin it on any one person.
Right.
But, you know, I know that Carrie's house has been vandalized. Marilyn's house has been vandalized. She lives directly behind me. My house has been vandalized. And I'm sure other people as well. You know, we will sometimes blame it on the fair. You know, when the people come in and they're not here for very long. So everything that I have to be concerned about has been addressed by everybody else, except something that you've kind of brought up. In fact, I think you opened with the squeaky wheel getting the oil.
Right.
Or grease. Sorry, did I say it right? I've seen it happen. Just keep calling the city. Call the police, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And when you see something that's bothering you, it might not be illegal, but not too long ago I saw a group of about 15 kids at 2 o'clock in the morning at the end of Bowie and Fullerton. And I called the police. And you know, you just have to keep doing that. Keep going on and make a nuisance of yourself, because that really is the only way that these problems get solved.
Right.
So thank you very much.
And that's my cell phone on there. And anybody can ask. I do answer the phone. Whoever called, I can answer it immediately, and I get on it and handle it. Sometimes I have to say, you know, I'm in a meeting. I'll call right back. Over here.
I'm single, and for me to feel safe where I live on Walnut Street, I have 2 black German Shepherds, and I have ADT protecting me. I go to Mother's Health Food Store 2 blocks away, and I put on my alarm system. Now, you know what? I'm a citizen. I've been here my whole life long. We went through this. I talked to you about Huntington Beach, and my neighbor did too. You know, and nothing, it keeps going because the whole thing's money. Well, you know what? Citizens have some kind of right. I have made it, and I'm sober, I'm clean, I'm 69, and I'm still here. I'm radical holistic. You know, I mean, I don't care what these other people are doing. I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes. Then they should be paying me to stay on my block too. Why do these people come in and make all this money? This is wrong. This is wrong. It's like the woman over there that lived in the neat cul-de-sac, whatever. You know what? I used to like Walnut. Now we have drug rehab right across the street. I just don't. And guess what? Chuck Smith, the Christian guy. He's the one that set it up, and he's the Christian Chuck Smith. That's him, right?
Praise God. Okay.
But this is what I'm saying. You know what? I've lived here my whole life since the 40s, and this is wrong. I don't care. I've made it. I'm clean, sober.
Congratulations.
But
no, seriously, thank you. That's good. No, I do. But I do want to keep the conversation to all group homes and not put every burglary or whatever on a group home, because then we're discriminating. I just don't want to talk about that way.
We got to have some rights as citizens.
You do.
You're saying we don't.
What I'm saying is, yeah, what I'm saying is, and I think we've heard, and a lot of us know the story, so I'm not telling you something new, is this is a fine line that we're going to have to walk to make this happen over here. I can tell you that with support of the community, this council will do everything it can to do that fine needle, thread that needle, to make sure that we can have these things in place. And if you call it, you know, squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever, a lot of it is over in there. If you're an investor and there's a problem or a hassle, you just don't want to invest in that neighborhood to build, you know, to do a group home. And that may help solve part of the problem. Right here.
I'm just wondering about Irvine and them being not friendly and you being friendly in the eyes of some of these people that are investing in these homes. Can you look at what Irvine's done over the last 10 years?
No, there's
emulate a lot of what they've done?
there's nothing that Irvine's done. There's nothing that any city's done that's made them have more or less. The biggest issue we had was when you wanted to go on rehab, you wanted to go at the beach in Newport Beach. They went ahead and went into major litigation. They also had a settlement with Morningside and the other group over there to shut down a big chunk of them, but still allowed them. They're right here, just like the story of Costa Mesa is, it gets thrown over the fence from Newport. I mean, we're just next door, and we get it. That's just who we are, and it's always happened that way. So it's not, they don't have them. People don't say, gosh, I can't wait to come from Illinois to go to Irvine. They want to go to Newport Beach. We're about the closest thing to it, so they come here. I mean, if it was a different area, it'd be different. Florida and Southern California are the big places for group homes. Go ahead.
What about, I'm going to be getting a security system. What about footage used from my security system for proof? Is it legal? Is it not?
Absolutely. Officer, people have security systems, and the question was, if I have a security system and I get video of somebody doing something, that's all usable, correct?
Even in their backyard?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they have more people in the daytime than they technically do at night, but it's still more than allowed to live, and it's still looking pretty suspicious, then you can use it?
I would think that's going to get into our nuisance issue, and we're going to figure out how to actually word. I don't want to say words to you that aren't legally backed up yet, but you're going the right direction.
Back, it's still
Correct.
camera back
May I
there.
add one last thing?
With the dog.
In 1999, a group of us as neighbors on Bowie and Fullerton and the immediate area, we had this very same issue.
Marilyn showed it to me. It's right there.
Oh, fabulous. And we really worked about a year on that, which created a situation where the city of Costa Mesa was able to document the actual facilities that do exist, and it was overwhelming the number that do exist. The percentage was higher than any other city, which you acknowledge. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you and say that I do think that we have to have ordinances, and we do have to have follow the nuisance laws in order to address this, because when I did talk to one of the group homes over this year's process, she finally came to the end of the road and said, fine, we will not be state licensed, we'll just operate as a family.
Right, but that's where now we're going to start threading that needle a little bit differently. And are you operating in a housekeeping unit?
Who are we supposed to call for quick things like people, their vans parking across the sidewalk so you have to walk in the street? But if we call 911, what are we supposed to say? If we call code enforcement, then it's...
Call dispatch. Dispatch.
What number is that?
Is that 754-5252?
That's in
Pretty good, huh? I knew that one. 754-5252. That's the same dispatch that 911's in, and tell them, and it'll get out there, and they'll get somebody there.
They're going to send people out for stuff like that.
Correct.
Because if they don't get there quickly, they're not going to ever
Correct.
see it.
Yeah. Ask my wife. We have a problem house on our street. My wife calls constantly. They all know her, and they don't get there all the time, you know, in time, but
So
many
if we
times they do.
take a picture of it, will that be helpful? Because you show up code enforcement, they're going to say, we didn't do that.
I think code enforcement doesn't think you're crazy.
Take a video.
So.
But my point is, it took 9 months to get that new restaurant on 17th to stop delivering food at 3 o'clock in the morning. 9 months. Because they kept saying, oh, we're sorry, it won't happen again. And then police never wanted to come at 3 o'clock in the morning, et cetera, et cetera. So
I didn't even hear about that. The restaurant was delivering at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, that Panera Bread when they first opened. Yeah.
I didn't know you get food at 3 in the morning. Okay. Before everybody leaves, make sure people sign up, and we have an email, or emails are the best, and we can make sure we get stuff out to you. Go ahead.
Mayor, of those 104 homes, how many of those do you have a feel for are senior group homes with half dozen elderly people?
None of them are designated as senior group
None
homes.
of them. So these are all potentially problem homes, not.
And how many are state, and how many are?
I have the numbers. Like, you want me to dig them out and get
It's about 30 somewhere state. You gave me the number today.
50.
What? 50 are state licensed. Of that 104, 50 are state licensed.
23% of all the licensed beds in Orange County.
23% of all the licensed beds in Orange County are in our fine city. 23%. And we are what? We are 3% of the population? Is that right?
Is there a list of them so if we know it?
Yeah. On the website it has the list of all the houses. And if you see another one on there, let us know. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Only the license?
On the state ADP website.
Okay, the state ADP website. ADP is the alcohol and drug. Is it adp.gov? .ca.gov?
Just type in ADP pro.
We'll put a link on to get to it. And the state license ones are on there. Please.
Yeah, before this crowd dissipates, I just want to ask, what should be our, just kind of summarize, what's our plan of action going to be now that we're the 1999, now we're the new kids on the block, okay? What's our plan of action besides going to the council meetings? What can we do proactively as a group? Because there's a lot of people here, more than we had.
Well, when you put your name on there, put an asterisk if you want to be on the committee. To go ahead and work with some of the distinctions, because we're going to need some fine distinctions to figure out, to add more ordinances to go into the problem there. And it would be good to have people in the community on that.
And at the meetings.
And at the meetings. It's very important. Right back.
Could you tell everyone when the next general planning meeting is?
The next general planning meeting is... No. The city council or general plan?
The general plan.
I think it's August 21st. Why is that? It's hitting. I don't know. I think it's August 21st. It's hit my head. I got so many meetings. I don't even know. I got my 3 girls are here to see me. It's on the website. Okay. Under planning.
You know that Morning Star that was told to shut down by the state, put out of business and still operating as usual? What's the update?
Morningside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the update on that? I mean, what hope is there in this for anybody? A person was killed there.
I don't know the answer to that right now, but I could find out. I don't know the answer. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Go ahead, Steve.
Is there a place on the website where people can send their concerns?
Yeah, they can go on the city website. There's a button on there right now for group homes. You can go on there, and then you can also say your concerns that are on there. And if it's not a concerns not on there, it says other. Just make sure you have a phone number. Staff will call you and get the concern and put it on. August 21st is the next general plan meeting at the EOC, 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock. The EOC is, if you go to the City Hall, it's just the one-story building between the police department and City Hall, EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Okay, anything else? Okay, I want to thank our Carrie for letting us beat up your lawn. Obviously, from being here, you guys have a great neighborhood. You've got a lot of great people that would come up on a moment's notice to be here.
The mayor introduced Mike Tucker. He's our code enforcement officer who's assigned to group homes and any code issues that exist there. He's got a bunch of business cards. So if you're interested in getting information, things like garage conversions that you mentioned, or any other issues that you believe might be code violations, Mike is a point of contact, so make sure you get his card before you leave.
Okay. Alrighty. So again, you guys have a great neighborhood. You're all here. We can solve this problem. We'll get there from here. These things are bumpy roads. They're never straight lines. But the council support, with your support, we can go ahead and do whatever we have to do to get this done. I want to thank you for being here, and I'm honored to be your mayor of the city of Costa Mesa. Thank you.